Donald Trump has tried so desperately to cover up his Jeffrey Epstein scandal, whether it's a fake peace summit with Putin in Alaska or a takeover of Washington, D.C. Donald Trump has tried everything he can to get the media to shift its attention long enough to forget about his relationship with Epstein, but he can't. It's just not working, and so he has taken his biggest and boldest step yet within his administration to make sure this cover-up runs smoothly, which it is not, by the way, and it involves Dan Bongino. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we can get into Trump throwing Bongino under the bus as this scandal continues to rage, I want to start with one of those cover-ups and distractions I mentioned, what's happening in D.C., which was called out by Senator Chris Murphy.
What is your message to people in the Capitol and elsewhere who buy into this argument that President Trump is making that these cities are unsafe in part because of Democratic policies?
Well, first, let's just look at the actual numbers. In Washington, D.C. and all across the country, crime was going up during Donald Trump's first term. And when Joe Biden became president, crime started to come down. In fact, it's been coming down precipitously in Washington and in cities all across the country. So it's just not true, the allegation that they are making. What's happening here in Washington, D.C. is just a stunt. Donald Trump didn't like the fact that the walls were closing in on him, that his own base was questioning why he wouldn't release the Epstein files, why he was protecting very powerful people. He didn't want to talk anymore about the fact that our healthcare system is about to collapse because of the cuts that they have made, that premiums are going to go up by 75% on Americans. And so true to form, he just decided to create a new news cycle. Nothing different is really happening in the United States Capitol today. Crime will continue to go down, whether or not there are U.S. troops here, National Guard troops here. He's just trying to distract from the stories he doesn't want Americans to be talking about.
This is as clear as a cover-up could possibly be, and Donald Trump will do anything to divert our attention. And of course, he is going for the crime narrative in D.C., and unfortunately, it seems like some people are falling for it, which is why we have to make sure we are driving home the point that it is Democrats who are making sure we are cracking down and lowering crime. That is what we have seen in statistics in Milwaukee, in Chicago, in Baltimore, in Atlanta, in D.C. But Donald Trump is going to continue to push his racist narrative because of course he will. That's what he will always do. Donald Trump is always finding a black or brown person to throw under the bus or point at an other to try to scare people away from focusing on what the real story is. And that's what's happening in his administration. And before we get into the latest step that he's taken to do so, I want to start with a little flashback to how Dan Bongino originally upset Donald Trump, because it's important context.
Sources detailing the ongoing clash over a fight that could cost someone their job. Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi clashing with the FBI #2 official Dan Bongino. As everybody who follows these kind of stories knows, technically the AG oversees the FBI, but if you remember Comey or other strong-willed FBI officials, when you're at that #1, #2 level, they sometimes fight with the DOJ. Sources say Bongino is so upset about all this, he's saying maybe he'll just leave, which would be a very quick tenure, by the way, and he would be leaving in a sort of protest or criticism of Bondi's handling of the Epstein files. Other outside agitators, including Tucker Carlson, saying she's lost confidence, maybe she has to go. He was not at work today, reportedly. Sources also say Bondi and Bongino got into a heated clash Wednesday in a high-level meeting with him, her, FBI Director Patel, and Donald Trump's #1 person who tracks all this stuff and makes the big staffing decisions, Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, who, of course, also ran the Victoria's campaign.
So obviously we saw a big fight break out between Bongino, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and it never really felt like it was actually settled. Dan Bongino went away for a while. He went away to a spa, I guess, or he went clubbing with Kash Patel in Vegas or Nashville. I don't really know what Kash Patel does, but Bongino's been pretty quiet. No Fox News appearances, he's not on podcasts, he's not doing much of anything, which is kind of the ethos of this administration. It's a bunch of people who don't know how to do their jobs, aren't qualified for their jobs, and don't want to do their jobs. But yeah, that's really taken a hold of Bongino, who really doesn't want to do his job, and neither does Trump. And so this is the latest Epstein bombshell. FBI gets 2 co-deputy directors. Missouri AG tapped to serve alongside Bongino. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel have appointed Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey to serve as Bureau co-deputy director alongside Dan Bongino, Fox News Digital first reported on Monday, and Axios can confirm. The new position is seen by insiders as a prelude to the eventual departure of Bongino, who clashed with Bondi amid the fallout over the release of the Epstein files, per Axios. My tenure as Attorney General has been the honor of my professional career, but what has made it truly meaningful has been the opportunity to serve my home state, the Attorney General said in a post that did not comment on his appointment. Representatives for the FBI declined to comment on the matter, and representatives for the DOJ did not immediately respond to Axios' request on Monday evening for a comment. So that's pretty strange. The government efficiency people now have 2 deputy directors at the FBI, a bureau that they have seen their staffing slashed to the bone. Kash Patel called it a purge, trimming the fat, getting rid of the waste. So it couldn't possibly be that they need 2 people to fill this role, right? Because Dan Bongino, I remember conservatives defending him tooth and nail when people like myself were pointing out that he was wholly unqualified because he's a podcaster. Nothing wrong with speaking into a microphone, but I don't think that I should be working at the FBI because I do it every single day. So he doesn't need extra help, right? Because conservatives already told us this is the guy, right? Could it be that, as the article stated, maybe Trump is ready to can him, and that's coming, but they can't do it so publicly? They got to keep it kind of quiet. Maybe they got to play nice with Bongino on his way out, give him a nice package, make sure that when this role is being filled, it's someone wholly bought in with the Epstein Coverup program. Maybe that's what's going on here. Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's very clear that Trump is getting rid of Bongino because he has caused problems and he doesn't know what he'll say about Epstein. And even worse, he doesn't know what he won't say to defend Donald Trump because he's been a little shaky. And we got to keep hitting this home. We cannot let this issue fall by the wayside. In fact, we need to be talking about it now more than ever, because as Congress returns to session, we have to think back about why they left. What was with this extended recess? Well, it was the Epstein files, of course. That is what Donald Trump and Mike Johnson were covering up. And that is what we have to make sure is reinserted into the dialogue. And I was talking about that just a little bit ago with Senator Chris Murphy. I hope you enjoy this interview. Senator, we are in Arizona right now because Republicans are terrified of doing town halls. It seems like these folks are really terrified of any form of accountability, and I feel like the easy pivot is to Jeffrey Epstein, which is exactly what we're going to do right now. And on that, I feel like we have had a problem with our pivot with Epstein and the Epstein files. This is a class issue by itself. Trump is defending himself, but also at the same time the wealthy, well-connected billionaires who are also on that list.
Yes.
And I feel like the party has gone, okay, this is a betrayal. There are lots of other betrayals in this administration, what they've done so far. And I just feel like when we do that and it's that hard of a pivot, it doesn't resonate. How can we better communicate this issue, which I feel like is a slam dunk for us?
Yeah, but I think it's okay to stay on this specific betrayal. I mean,
I do too.
That's right, because this is a disgusting story of abuse.
Yep.
And there is just no doubt, given how many pictures there are out there of Donald Trump and Maxwell and Epstein, that he was either involved in it or knew about it. And obviously, he is trying to protect something really awful about his connection to the story in these files. And so it is okay to spend time talking about what this guy did, what that woman did to those girls, and our need to get that question answered. But yes, it is also true that it's the same thing as usual.
It's symptomatic of the rest of the administration.
Yes, I mean, and it's an apolitical story, because it is probably true that there are folks on the right and the left who are in those files, and Trump is protecting them all because he is using the White House in order to paper over the corruption and the crimes of the broad general elite. And that is an opportunity for Democrats, who have been branded far too often, I think unfairly, as the party of the status quo, the party that often backs economic elites, to tell the real story.
Yeah, and I think at the same time as we're talking about like the Trump cover-up, he's covering up everyone else. When they closed the case, it wasn't just for Donald Trump. Of course, they've been like scratching his name out, but it's been everywhere and all the time. And I don't want to have to do the pivot here, but like it is so easy to do. We see Donald Trump engaging in every abuse of power possible, something that you've been talking about a lot. A story that just went away because there are so many. Donald Trump is funneling billions of dollars into his own private plane, and it seems like we just can't get that to land. It is another apolitical story. Why can't we communicate this well enough to keep it in the news cycle?
Yeah, I think for some reason Democrats sort of think that folks have tuned this out, and so they don't approach every news story with the level of emotional outrage that normal Americans do. Yes, this plane story is crazy. We now are finding out that it's going to cost $1 billion to retrofit this plane that he got as a gift from Qatar. It's going to take so long that Trump will basically be out of office by the time it's done. And then he's taking the plane with him. So it's $1 billion, which is still a lot of money, of our money, taxpayer money, in order to give Donald Trump a personal luxury plane when he leaves.
He's not even going to use it while he's in the White House.
I don't think it's going to be ready while he's in the White House. He just submitted a defense budget that has tons of new money for drones. And you know what Donald Trump Jr. just did? He just invested in a drone company in Florida, and the value of the company doubled overnight. And listen, I think Democrats don't tell these stories because they're like, oh, everybody just already thinks that Donald Trump is corrupt.
And that everyone is corrupt.
And that everybody is corrupt. But listen, it's just not true that really anybody else in Washington has the level of corruption that Donald Trump does. But it's also not true that his base, who is only watching, captured media, hears these stories. And if we don't even attempt to tell them, then there's no chance that his base will ever hear how corrupt he is.
We got to be better on our messaging. We got to communicate strength, but first we have to show it by making sure that we actually fight tooth and nail to get these Epstein files released, that we stick to our promises, that we model Gavin Newsom out in California, an elected leader actually getting shit done, that we model Zohran Mamdani on the other coast in New York, showing what it really looks like to reach people where they are, to communicate an aspirational message. That's the type of politics we should be playing right now. That's the way we got to act. I think those are two maybe different in some ways politicians, but certainly keeping a core ethos of a moral authority, leading on their values, hitting back all the time. And it's the reason that they're popular. Simple as that. So if you're a Democrat, maybe a Democrat in New York, maybe a Democrat in New York in Democratic leadership, whether it be in the House or the Senate, maybe follow some of that. We put the pen down. No more strongly worded letters, okay? We're done with those. Let's actually fight. We're certainly going to be doing so on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.